Got 40 dogs in a shelter, and some of them get adopted away, so there's 2% less every 140 days. Then this is the hardest part, the every 140 days part. All right. Who had that one all set up correctly? Good. Next kind that is just sort of a review because, man, these are so important to be able to do. What is 64 to the 2/3 power? However you need to do it that way so you can get the answer. You should be able to get this answer. I hope you have this one memorized, because I did talk about what to the what was 64. So you should be able to do this one. But if nothing else, calculators are only allowed in your next test. At least you'd have to know how to use the calculator to get this. All right, please compare your answer with the kid next to you. Josh, what'd you get?
16.
16 is correct. So let's talk about why. First off, you got to know the third root of 64, which is pretty tricky, and it comes out to 4. Then why isn't the answer just 4? Because that's a normal power still, and it's 4 to the second now, and that would be 16. All right, awesome. How about one of these kind of powers where you want to make the bases the same? 3 to the x plus 1 equals 27 to the x. This one won't be that bad because you can just use a base that's on the screen. Like one of those is the base. All right. Did you figure out that this 27 needed to be written as a 3 to the third? And then it's really as easy as, once the bases are the same, you just set the exponents equal. X plus 1 needs to equal 3x. Take away an x on both sides. 1 equals 2x. Divide by 2, divide by 2. X is 1/2. Now I'm curious, did anybody go back and check that one to see if it would work? Now, if you didn't check it, this is your reminder, you should check all your answers in this unit, because on this coming test, we're going to have moments where we're going to give you one where the answer doesn't actually work. You get an answer correctly, and it just doesn't work. So I'm going to just check it for you and show you what I mean. 3 to the x plus 1 is equal to 27 to the x. If I can't put this in, if it won't actually work when I put a 1/2 here, then I must be doing it wrong. All right, so I'm going to check it and watch what happens. If I have a 1/2 plus a 1, that's 3 to the 1/2, which is also known as 3 over 2, equals 27 to the 1/2. That's like the square root of 27. Now, I don't know if this is going to blow your mind too much, but if I wanted to put both of these, oops, wait, not that, there, to the second power, that'll make these 2's cancel out. And then it says 3 to the third is 27. It is. I checked it, and it worked. All right, so you should check your answers. Why? Because I want to, make your life terrible, and it's going to take extra time, and this sucks? No, it's because there's going to be problems where it doesn't. Do you remember which kind of problem typically has answers that just won't work? Square roots is correct. I'd like you to try this one. Square root of 3x minus 2 equals the square root of x. for squaring both sides to start with? All right, please talk to that kid next to you so you can get the same thing. All right. Allison Carr, what did you get for an answer?
1.
All right. Let's make sure it's actually 1 before I double check it. All right, I'm going to square both sides and I get 3x minus 2 equals x. I hope you're kind of paranoid now and you're like, I wonder if this is the kind, because I just did something to both sides. Is this the kind where I have to put in absolute values? Because there is a kind like that. Is this the kind? No, it's not. It's if I do a square root to both sides. All right, so then this is correct. And then I just take away x. And I get 2x minus 2 equals 0. 2x equals 2. X equals 1. Now be honest. How many of you actually took a second to check it? Good. Did this one work? Yes, it just worked. It comes out with the square root of 1 on both sides. So it's kind of like I told you that example of when kids come into the school dance, if you bring in a backpack, you're going to get checked. But does that mean that everybody bringing in a backpack is actually bringing in something wrong? No. You're going to get checked because maybe it's just your clothes in there. Sometimes, though, when we check the answers, one of them doesn't work. Let's say this hadn't worked. A reminder, you go like this and you go extraneous. This is not one of those times, but if you had checked it and it didn't work, that's the proper way to label it. Okay, next kind that I think was pretty tough. I think at least 2/3 of you can do this, but that means I think 2/3 of you, no, 1/3 of you can't. It's a 2/3, it's just terrible handwriting, so I'm gonna try that again. -1 equals 8. Try this one, please. This is a tough one. I put this under top 4 hardest problems on a test. Just to begin with, you add 1 to both sides. And if you don't know why, I'm going to remind you that when you're solving, you're doing PEMDAS just backwards. You look and see if you can add or subtract anything first. And you can. It would make it better if you added 1 to both sides. Then you look and see if there's anything that you could multiply and divide both sides by. And there is not. Just to clarify, if I had had like a 4 out in the front, you divide both sides by 4. We don't have to do that this time though. So we added 1 to both sides. And then we got to put it to a power of something. Did you realize it was 3/2? If you made a mistake right there, go back and fix it because you have to put it to the 3/2 power. And how many of you remembered the absolute value? Oh, I just reminded you about it 2 problems ago, and yet almost everybody forgot. Why? Because it doesn't look like a square root. It's this weird fraction, but it's a square root. It is. So it needs absolute values. Why does that matter? Just because I'm going to mark it wrong because I'm like picky? No, because you won't get 2 answers unless you have an absolute value. That's why you have to have the absolute value, because it'll give you 2 answers. And the square root of 9 is 3, and 3 to the third is 27. Okay, finish it off. And we'll have 2 answers if you do it right. this was, oh, okay, square root of 9. See that 2 on the bottom? It's the square root. What's the square root of the 3 to the third? All right, then you do the splits. X minus 3 is 27. X minus 3 is negative 27. Add 3 to both sides. X equals 30. Add 3 on this side. X equals negative 24. Now, it's going to be a little bit of a pain to check these. And is this the kind you should watch really close? No, it doesn't have square root in the original problem. So I don't have, well, you don't ever have to check it, but you really will be glad you did sometimes. But if you check them, they should actually work. But it's just going to be kind of a pain because the numbers are so big. But you'd have a calculator too, so you could do it. This, I think that 30 works, right? So then I think that I could put a 30 here. And that becomes 27, and then the cube root of 27 is 3, and then 3 squared is 9, and 9 minus 1 is 8. I can do it. It's possible. Okay, cool. So there's my 2 answers for that one. Next up, try this one. Without any help from anybody, let's make sure this is slightly different. Don't think it's the same problem over again. It's not. Solve that one. Again, in that category of hardest questions on the test. First step, add 1 to both sides. This becomes 27. Next, power it up. To what power? 2 over 3. And this cancels this. Careful, did you have absolute values or not? Please talk to the kid next to you about whether or not this one needs absolute values. I know some people think yes, and some people think no. I know that. Does it need absolute values or not? This is a critical moment, because half of you are wrong. So here's the question. Did you do a square root on both sides? No, you did a cubed root to both sides. Cube roots can have negatives, so they don't need absolute values. It's only if the denominator is even. Okay, so the one you did this to it. You did a third root to it. So you do not have an absolute value. Only if the root that you did is even. So it's not absolute value. 2x minus 2 equals third root of 27. These are supposed to be easy by now. That's 3. 3 squared is 9. And then you add 2 to both sides. 2x equals 11. Divide by 2. And you get 11 over 2. Who had 11 over 2? Nice. Okay. That's tough. And that is definitely going to be one of those. This is going to be a tough test. It's coming next Thursday, by the way. I looked up to make sure. You still got plenty of time to learn this stuff. All right, here's one. 9 to the x plus 1 equals 27 to the second. Talk to the kid next to you, see if you got the same thing. All right, I'm going to speed run this one. So this needs to have the same base as that, and neither one of them can be a 9. So I'm going to make this a 3 squared, and I'm going to make this a 3 to the third. And then this has a parentheses, so some of you are going to remember that, and some of you aren't. 2x plus 2 is equal to 3 times 2 is 6. 2x equals 4, x equals 2. And if I'm suspicious that I may have made a mistake, I would check that 2 and make sure it actually worked. Any questions? Who had the answer of 2, just like I did? Awesome. All right, cool. I feel like you're good at those now. That's awesome. All right, then here is the new stuff. And here is a typical question. X to the 2 times x, x to the y is equal to x to the 5th. And these are very confusing for people, but after you see how you set it up, you'll realize it's really not that bad. I'm just curious though, anybody got it already? All right, now you know what we're headed towards, is solving stuff like this. All right, now here's my pro tip that I think is going to help a lot. X to the 2nd times x to the 5th. Do you know what that equals? X to the what? X to the 7th, good. So what you're telling me is you just have to add this and this together, right? So what you're telling me is I could make them have the same base by taking x to the 2 plus 5, couldn't I? So what you're telling me is I could make this be x to the 2 plus y, couldn't I? See what I did there? Now they have the same base. It's just that the base is at x. The other ones we did that to make the bases the same, we'd done the base be a 2 or something. Now the x is base. And so we just needed these two to get together into one base. And then you'd add the exponents, and there we go. I bet you from here you can see it must be just that must equal that. And so 2 plus y equals 5. So you subtract 2 from both sides, and you got y equals 3. Does that make sense? So really, that's not that hard. All right, here's another one that's very similar. But let's do this first. X to the 3rd over x to the 8th. Can you put those together and make it have one base? X to the... Well, I know, some of you are thinking, but it's got an x to the 5th on the bottom, so what am I supposed to put? Did you know that you can subtract these two? 3 minus 8 makes negative 5. And x to the negative 5 is like an x on the bottom to the 5th. Just to clarify, this is 1 over x to the 5th. They're the same thing, but by writing it this way, I've got my x as my base. See what I mean? Just take this minus this. Okay, so how would you use that? Well, if you had a problem like this, x to the 3rd over x to the y is equal to x to the 4th. You could put these together as 1x, x to the something, and you might be like, but we subtracted them and now it's not a number. You can still subtract them. So now they both have a base of x. Would you please compare that equation right there to the kid next to you? Because some people don't know how to set this up, and other people do. X to the what equals x to the what? Sorry, I hadn't muted my phone yet. All right. X to the 3 minus y. Because see, you take this minus this. And now the bases are the same. And then 3 minus y equals 4. 3 minus y equals 4. It is not super easy to do in your head, but You can solve it. You just subtract 3 from both sides. Negative y equals 1. Y equals negative 1. And if I'm at all sure, if I'm all not sure, sorry, that worked, I should double check it. So watch me go back and put in negative 1 and see if it works. This x would be unhappy where he is. X to the negative 1. See? I'm going to put it up here. And then it'd be x to the 4th equals x to the 4th. It worked. Yes?
Wouldn't the 3 minus y be negative 3 minus 1?
3 minus y right here, this guy. It would not be a negative 3. Nope. We just take this number minus this number. So it was 3 minus y. Okay? Just the top one minus the bottom one. I think you were trying to make it harder than it actually is. You just have to take the top one minus the bottom one. All right. Cool. Well, there's only one more kind. 2 days ago, we asked you to do problems that were like this. Would you just simplify that down for me? Because today it's called solving. So you have to solve it. So we're going to tell you, oh, by the way, the answer equals this. So let's just, if you can't simplify yet, we should work on that. All right, do you remember that these guys were unhappy, so they're going to go downstairs. These guys are unhappy where they are. They're going to go upstairs. Then I'm going to have y to the 4th over x to the 5th. Did you get the same thing as me on that one? Okay, cool. So just imagine that I had also said, oh, by the way, that equals 2 over x to the 5th. Now, I didn't have that, in the problem. But if I had, then you could multiply both sides by x to the 5th, and then these would cancel, and then I'd have y to the 2nd, or y to the 4th equals 2, and then I could solve that. My point is, you'll have to be able to simplify these things. I'm going to just finish this one off and say, let's say I had this. I know there's a few of you that don't actually know how to solve that. Just take that problem. Just that. Y to the 4th equals 2. Do you know what to do? Remember, you'll have a calculator. You might be like, well, if it was a squared, I would square root it, but what am I going to do when it's a 4? You're going to put it to the power of 1/4. Who figured out it would be power of 1/4? Awesome. I got asked this question like 4 times earlier. Because there's a question like this on the homework. And so many people were so confused by this. They were like, how do I get rid of that? Let's challenge you to think that through. What would you put it to? You're going to put it to a power. You got this. It's not that bad. You're putting it to a power that will get the x to be alone. Talk to that kid next to you. Tell them what you think, or ask them what they think. All right. Did you realize it was 4? Nope. It's 1/4. Nope. It's really close to 1/4 though. What is it? Nope. 4/1 wouldn't work, but it is kind of 1/4, but it's not 1/4.
-1/4.
There it is. Now I want you to think about why. Because you wanted this times this to equal 1, right? Do you get how 4 times the 1/4 would make it a 1, but then you needed a negative times the other negative to make it a positive 1. So x equals 3 to the -1/4. I just need you to know that you can use a calculator, but do you know how to actually do that? Take a second, use the iPad's calculator. It'll be like, a regular calculator. You don't have to have your physical calculator here with you today. Just to clarify, on the test, we will be using the physical calculators. But do you know how to put that in? Because it's some 4th root of 3. Like, nobody memorizes that. And then it's negative, so it's like flipped over. It's actually a fairly big number. All right. Sam Ballard, what'd you get?
I didn't have time to
All right. I was just suggesting you do it on your iPad. So 3 caret -1. Actually, 1/4 is 0.25. I can do that in my head. 3 to the power of -0.25. Just do that quick. You can type faster than I can.
the iPad can't read this one.
All right. Henry Ballard, how about you?
I got 0.76.
Anybody verify 0.76? A lot of people nodding their heads. Okay, good. Okay, cool. So, that was pretty bad. Like, it took, I don't know, is there one person that knew how to do that? So let's just make sure that you all can do this one. How would you solve this one? And if you're getting bored, I get it. You've been having to practice a lot. You're gonna have work time very soon. Quan, what did you put it to the power of? -1/2 is perfect. Because these two make a total of 1. So it's x to the 1, which is just x. And this, I could do it in my head if I knew what the square root of 14 was, but I don't. But I could say it's going to be the square root of 14, except it's 1 over that because of the negative. And a calculator could definitely do that way better than me. All right, cool. I think you get the idea. Let's start that Schoology quiz with number 1. All my Schoology quizzes are set to have 2 tries. You get the answer after the first try. So the reason I do that is because I know that if I give you unlimited tries, that some people will just put in crappy answers, see what the answers are by hitting enter on the first try. So I want you to have to actually try on the first try. And then you'll see the answers. And then if you want to do it again, you can raise your score pretty much guaranteed. All right. So let's see that first one together. Anybody willing to read it to me? All right, I'll force somebody. Alex, would you read me number 1?
4 to the x power, and in parentheses 4 to the 2nd power equals 4 to the 5th power.
Cool. If you can make the bases both be 4, 4 to the this equals 4 to the that, deal of 1. 4 to the x plus 2. Don't try to do these in your head. Get the bases the same. Literally, 8 kids came up and asked for help last hour, and that's awesome, but they were trying to do them in their head. They didn't have them written down. And as soon as I wrote it down like this, then they'd be like, oh, well, x has to be 3 then. That's easy. Once you see it written, it feels totally different, okay? So make sure you're trying these on scratch paper. All right, let's move on to number 2. Caitlin, would you read me number 2, please?
A squared over a to the x equals a to the negative 3.
And if I could get it so they both have an a to a power, like the right side already is good. Caitlin, can you fix that a on the left side to be a to a power of?
A to impact over of would be
You got this. You got this, and you get this. Do you add that kind? Do you subtract that kind? Do you multiply that kind?
you would add it. So 2 and 2 plus x.
So close. On this kind, you'd subtract them. 2 minus x. All right, now that has to equal that, and that's just a little equation, and you can solve it from there. Because see, when they're like this, you subtract the exponents. That's why it's a 2 minus the x. So 2 minus x equals negative 3, and if you can't solve that, put you back in algebra 1. Okay, and not that I make mistakes, believe me, I'm not. But if you don't know how to start even solving this, then you really got to work on your basics. And we're going to actually do that next week. We're going to go back to algebra 1 and make sure you got all your basics down. Okay, and that's all I got for you for today.